Hello, my name is Athenkosi Kwinana. I am a visual artist and visual activist based in Johannesburg, South Africa. And then we move to the first question. What's your background? I am the first daughter of 3 girls. I am the only one who has albinism in my immediate family, and by immediate family I mean my parents and my 2 younger sisters and extended family. I was born in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape province in South Africa. I grew up with my maternal grandparents, my mother, my sisters, and my aunts and ground staff, and I think life then was pretty amazing. Life was buzzing. My grandma owned a very small but lucrative garden where she would sell vegetables, and then she also owned a small shop. We call them spaza shops here in South Africa, but I think the international term would be an informal store. And so you can imagine I always had something to do, and I took part in everything around my grandparents' home, from cleaning to helping in the garden to helping in the shop. When I think about it, my grandparents and my mother and the rest of my family members and staff never put me never put me on a pedestal, or made me feel special. I was treated like everyone else. I then started attending school, and I think from there I started realizing that I was quite different. I think the first prominent experience with discrimination that still lives with me today is I was in the garden with my mom, and we were plowing, I think, or we were basically busy with something. And a young boy started singing a song, and it goes, "Nodoli, Nodoli, sudlala ngombona, umbona unqabile ekadeni kamakhulu," which directly translates to doll child, don't play with mealie-corn. Mealie-corn is a scarcity in your grandma's garden. And you could imagine at the time, I really did not know what was going on. I then asked my mother what was going on. She just reprimanded me to get back to work. And I think the older I got, the more I actually realized that the boy was mocking me and my abilities as a woman and as a person with a disability. What am I doing in the garden? Are you even capable of working in the garden? So yeah. I think one thing that I need to note before I move on to the next question, and I'm hoping you would be able to edit it and maybe even put it at the top. Actually, sorry, I think I will put it in the second question, so you could just cut this out. I'm sorry. All right, on to question 3. My influences, I would, top of my head, it's about 5 people. It's my maternal grandparents. They were very giving, not just to me, my mom, her sisters, or my cousins, But my grandma, from my observations as a kid, was there for everyone. My grandma was the person and grandfather that you'd go to if you needed sugar, if you might have maybe no food in the fridge, or you need help to go to town the following day, because we lived in a semi-rural area, so to actually get to the nearest urban area, it would be a drive or 2 hours walk. But obviously, imagine if you have to be somewhere at 7 and it's raining or maybe someone doesn't want to walk, and we'll never know. They were always there for their community members. And then I think the third person would be my mom. My mom worked and still does in the community development sector. My mom worked with companies such as Love Life, which helped spread HIV and AIDS awareness around the country, fighting, for the dignity of families, helping with cases of displacement, and any related initiatives or programs. And a school would start from 7 o'clock or 9. I'm not really sure. Or maybe she dropped us quite early because she had to go to work at school. And school would maybe finish at around 2, and she would pick us up and we would go back to her office, which were, at the time when I was quite young, were these centers where young kids from less fortunate areas would come in. And these centers had recreational activities, from dancing to basketball to radio broadcasting, and I really loved that. I really loved it, and I think my passion for activism and fighting for those around me, my community members, I think it started there. And when I then eventually got into the arts and I realized that I could actually use my work as a form of activism, I then look at, and I'm influenced by the works of South African printmaker Diane Victor and Zanele Moholi, both artists, create these confrontational works that dare the viewer, to think, to even put themselves in their shoes, and one might even argue make one uncomfortable. But isn't that what art is? To comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. And those are the people that I look up to, and I appreciate in my work until this day. What I am currently focusing on right now, I have a solo that will be opening on the 7th of September in Johannesburg, South Africa, at a gallery called Burman Contemporary. The exhibition, complemented with a group exhibition, examines the representation of the albinistic body, and by that term I mean the body of persons living with albinism, how it has been represented in South African visual culture from the years 2004 to 2024, and what does this tell us about how albinism is perceived in South African society, and what can we do to challenge and change that. And the exhibition will feature 2 panel discussions on themes around human rights, disability arts, living with albinism in South Africa, creating and albinism. So that is what I'm currently focusing on, and I hope it brings the desired attention. It creates the openness that I really want, and it creates a foundation for future researchers, to come back and say, okay, this is what has been done. What now? What can we do? So that is what I'm currently focusing on. In challenges that I have as an artist, I could have challenges. I think I could have, but I tend to not dwell on them for some time. I think for me, if I am going to look at the desires of my heart for my work and for the initiatives that I would like to run, I think at the moment it's funding, because the spaces are there, the support is there. I think it's just financial limitations. But other than that, I haven't come across any sort of challenge where I'm like, okay, I am stuck. But yes, that's my only challenge at the moment. What advice would I give my younger self? I think I don't think I would change anything about my upbringing, because I am who I am because of my experiences. So there isn't really anything. I would smile. I think if I would be walking down the road and I am a passerby, I would smile at my younger self. And I think that would be enough. I think my journey has been necessary, and I like how organic it has been. So there isn't really anything that I would go back in time to tell my younger self. Have I tried unconventional mediums or techniques? No, not that I can think of in terms of mediums. But according to my standards, I would say creating large works has been something that's quite new to me, very challenging, which I really love. I created a work that stands at 240 centimeters by 80 centimeters, and that for me, according to my standard, has to be the most unconventional thing that I've ever done as an artist. I do have to say I'm still not satisfied, because I would like to go a bit bigger. But the idea of creating mixed media artworks it's there at the back of my head. I revisit it maybe once a month, to see how I can actually create works past the flat paper, which I work on, because dominantly my works are works on paper. So yeah. Do I listen to anything? I am a huge fan of true crime podcasts. So when I draw, I tend to listen to podcasts or your Netflix documentaries on the death of someone or a crime. If it isn't on true crimes, it is very animated anime, dramatic, if I may put it that way, comedy. I really enjoy those. Or I would be listening to a documentary on how humans think, perceive things around them. So I really like those three types of things to listen to. Genres to listen to whilst I'm working. If I do listen to music, which is always a bad idea, I never really get to finish my work because I will get distracted and I will start dancing. So it's never really a good idea. Following question says, what's the best reaction someone has had to your artwork? I have 2 stories that I'd like to tell. The first one, I think, is more about me and my quality of work. I am preparing for my master's exhibition in 2022, so we are hanging. And one day I come into the space, and unfortunately South Africa has a load shedding problem, so there's no electricity, but there's little light because there are windows on the top of the hanging area, so a little light. And at the time I was there with my cousin and her husband and their niece. And even in, that slightly lighted room, my niece comes in with a squeaky, how like toddlers have like that squeaky voice, and she says, "Auntie, that's you." And she giggles, but like as in like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like that, "Wow, Auntie, this is you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And for the first time I froze. And I think I was a bit annoyed that I didn't get to capture this on camera. But that was one of the best feelings for me, because that was the end of that chapter. And to have that compliment come from her, considering the circumstances, considering that she's a kid, for me, it made my day. I really didn't care about the rest of the opening and everything else. But that was that. And then the second time, I had the privilege of showcasing my work at Investec Art Fair, which is an art fair in Cape Town. One of the biggest art fairs, if not the biggest, on the African continent. And I showcased in a solo booth, and I had invited a friend, female, black, with albinism like myself, to come and see the show. She comes in and she sees the show, and it's on a Friday, and she comes in again on Saturday, and on Sunday she doesn't come in. So to come into the fair, you kind of have to pay for each day. Friday was free for her because I had invited her to come in, so she was my guest. And the Saturday she had actually bought a ticket, so she kind of went in twice. Long story cut short, I then asked her post the art fair, "What do you think about the show? How did you feel?" She sends me this voice note that says that for the first time in a long time, she had no makeup on. She just had her head wrap and her shades, glasses. She walked in the street. And she really did have no care in the world. She felt like she could take on the world right there and there. And I think for me, that was it. that was really it. So those two moments for me, not that I won't have any more in the future, I might, but for me, thus far, those two really still stick with me until this day. The only upcoming events that I am currently in a group show that's opening on the 27th of July. That is called Art Ladies Women's Month Group Exhibition here in South Africa. August is Women's Month, so the exhibition will be celebrating female voices. It will be hosted at the Bourbon Contemporary in Rosebank, South Africa. And then after that, I have my solo, which is opening on the 7th of September, which I am very excited about. My social media is Kwinana, spelled Kwinana. So yeah, thank you for having me. Take care. Bye. And then the second last question is, what do you hope people take away from your artwork? So I think we should take a step back. I would then like people to know what my work is about. So for the longest time, people with albinism have or succumb to discrimination, and it really gets really bad because it becomes violent. There are killings and there are rape cases and abductions, and all of these stem from irrational stereotypes and traditional beliefs. My work aims to challenge that. My work then touches on themes of human rights, gender politics, and intersectionality. And what I would like people to take away from this, how I would like people to feel after seeing my work, I would like my community members, other individuals living with albinism, to feel empowered, to know that they're valid, to know that they're celebrated and that they matter. I think images for me are very important. Images exist everywhere, from your grandma's house to your bedroom wall, to your screensaver on your phone, to images on the internet, to images in magazines and billboards outside. We use them to communicate, and this is my way of saying to my community members and non-persons living with albinism that I'm human and I have the right to life, and I'd like to be respected. And I think from there we're then able to have spaces where we can have discussions, ask questions about things that I feel sometimes people tend to be shy about or don't even know how to approach it without coming off as insensitive. But I also want my viewers to be aware of the cases and the stories that happen within our society.